Hello and welcome to the news. This is a new series I'd like to start where I talk about the newest releases and the new announcements and rumors in the model car world. The main theme will be Formula 1 models in scale 1/18th, but I'll try to cover as many different scales and motorsports categories too as possible. And let's start with the highlights of this month. So we'll start with the new releases first. And these are the ones I would like to highlight from the past month of December 2022 and also January 2023. There's lots of Spark news as they are the first to release a whole batch of Formula 1 2022 models in scale 1/18th. They are both the Red Bull racing cars of Verstappen and Perez. These are based on the Saudi Grand Prix, which was won by Max. The Verstappen model does come with a pit board and has a different compound to the Perez model, white Pirellis as opposed to the red ones on Checo's car. Something I noticed straight away though is that Spark has some trouble with the decals on the matte paint, like actually on the previous Red Bull models as well, and you can basically see the contours of the decals very clearly. Shame they still didn't find a way to improve this. Both Mercedes W13s of Hamilton and Russell then have also been released, and these are from the Bahrain Grand Prix. Quite interesting to see are the famous but slightly flawed zero pods in model form. Also notice that the helmet on Russell's model is still the black and red one he used during the first part of the season. He switched to a mainly light blue one after the British Grand Prix, I think, matching the color of his race number 63 on his car like Hamilton has with the bright yellow. Another Mercedes powered car they released is the Aston Martin AMR 22. Spark made 3 different models. There are the Vettel and Stroll versions from the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix with the intermediate tires, and the third version is the Hülkenberg one from the Bahrain Grand Prix where he was a stand-in for Vettel, and this version comes with the slick tires of course. They then also released both McLaren cars of Norris and Ricciardo. These are Australian Grand Prix spec, and that's a good thing actually. At this Grand Prix they ran the OTR on the run sponsorship on the sidepods, which is an Australian convenience store chain. Normally they would have the logos of British American tobacco, vape or other nicotine related products on there. Now model makers are prohibited to put these logos on their models, so if Spark would have based these models on another race, the sidepod would have been left blank like on the 143 scales. Come to think of it actually, I don't know why Spark didn't do the Norris model from the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, in which Lando finished on the podium, he's only one of the year, and McLaren's only one of the year, although then of course it wouldn't have the OTR sponsorship on it, but yeah, I mean still. Although I'm personally not really a fan of the livery of the McLaren MCL36, I actually do like the Google Chrome colored wheel discs. Another of Spark's releases with decorated wheel discs is the Bottas version of the Alfa Romeo C42 from the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, I don't think I've seen 1/18th versions of his teammate Joe yet, but I assume they will come. I must say I do love the Alfa. To me it's my favorite F1 2022 car, so I'll most likely get one of those and do a full review of it. A special Italian flag livery from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix has also been announced. Finally then there is the other Alfa, the Alfa Tauri of Pierre Gasly, also from the Australian Grand Prix. And I also really like the look of this car, although it wasn't one of the team's best cars of the past few seasons, let's say. There is also a Teams edition that has been floating around, I noticed. This is also a Spark model made especially to thank the Alfa Tauri team members. And it's a special model though, as it's half a Tsunoda car and half a Gasly, as you can see from the helmet that has a double livery on it. And these editions has also been signed by the drivers too. All these new F1 2022 releases by Spark look pretty good, I'd say. I noticed that they went through the effort of making cuts in the front wing cascades on all cars, which I think is a big improvement. Also the front wing height problem seems to be solved now, which of course is great news. Although I think these early season versions are very nice models, I will probably wait some more for the later season cars like the Perez Monaco Grand Prix winner, the Verstappen Japan Championship winning car, a Russell first win or a Vettel last race. Out now too are the pink BWT Alpines of Alonso and Ocon, and these are based on the Bahrain Grand Prix with the all pink livery they ran for the first 2 races of 2022. Spark then have also released a few interesting classics in scale 1/18th. There is this Graham Hill BRM 57P 1963 Monaco Grand Prix winner, and this is not another re-release of the 1962 World Championship winner though, but the car he drove as a reigning champion the year after. Spark have also done a few new versions of the Tyrrell P34 from 1977 of Peterson and De Paillet. Now they have released the Peterson version before in 2022, I believe, but they now have also released the De Paillet version. And not only that, but they also made the late season version with a wider track for both drivers. And I think this one is the more interesting version, as it is quite different from the original 1976 model, and it would be actually quite interesting to see how they compare side by side. Some other interesting releases from Spark are these two Vaillant models from their Michel Vaillant collection, the Rebellion LMP2 car, and then the Macau Grand Prix Formula 3 car of Sacha Fenestraz. Furthermore, Spark have also released these pretty cute F1 2022 cars in scale 1/64 under the Sparky banner. And here I have the Red Bull and Mercedes cars, and honestly, I think they look pretty nice. They are quite detailed too. You can clearly recognize the shape of the respective cars, like the Mercs with the zero pods for example. The helmet decals are quite crisp too, and all the decals look quite good actually. The T-cam on top is missing though, as this would be too fragile, I imagine. Now, I'm not exactly sure to which audience this is aimed at. It looks to be more for kids, as you can tell by the Sparky logo and name. These small cars can be taken out of the box easily too, and you can roll them around as well. No matter if you look at them as toy cars or model cars, they look pretty good, I'd say. The Aston Martins and Alpines have been released too now, only the Alfas, Tauri and Romeo are still to come. From Minichamps side then, there isn't a whole lot of news. They had not yet released any 1/18th F1 2022 cars until the middle of January, except for the Verstappen Fanshop versions of the Saudi and Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And these models are the same diecast models that Minichamps will release themselves. And Minichamps will also release the Saudi Grand Prix versions anytime now, I think. The Verstappen Fanshop editions do have a different and bespoke packaging style and display plate similar to the ones Minichamps uses for their own resin models. And these Fanshop versions are ever so slightly different with extra tire markings added especially for the Verstappen Fanshop. CK model cars have also done special versions of their with their own style of packaging, but the models are the same as the standard Minichamps. They have released the Saudi Grand Prix versions for both drivers, and then a Miami Grand Prix special for Verstappen. Now, judging from the pictures I've seen, the Minichamps model is quite decent compared to the Spark models, but it seems the Spark models are just a bit more detailed, especially with these cuts in the front wing, of course. One thing Minichamps have addressed for the F1 2022 models is the dreary brown visor decal they used on their helmets. And they now use this golden reflective sort of tints on it, which is definitely an improvement, but let's be honest, it's still nowhere near how it should look like. Now it kind of looks like it's been treated by Salt Bay actually. But yeah, all jokes aside, it's nice to see Minichamps apparently listens to the customers' feedback though, and I hope they fine-tune this now so it will look better on the next ones. Minichamps' biggest news, however, of this month are the re-releases of the 1993 Senna McLaren MP4-8. There is the final win version from the Australian Grand Prix with a figurine getting out of the car, and another version, new version of the Donington Grand Prix winner. And this one had been released before, or re-released before, back in 2020, I think, and it was quite a popular model, as you can imagine. The new version is quite different though, with a new figurine holding a Brazilian flag. Now the Australian Grand Prix final win is out now. The European Grand Prix winner is due anytime soon, I think. Now this last win version comes with a figurine getting out of the car, as I mentioned, and it's nice they changed it up a bit with a special figurine. However, upon inspecting the pictures, I noticed that the proportions are pretty off on the figurine. It's either too small or the helmet is way too big. I assume it's the former, as the helmet looks to be the same they've been using for a while now. But it's not immediately noticeable, but if you keep looking at it, you'll notice that either the head looks massive or the body is almost like a child. I mean, some angles also make it look much worse. Now, the 1993 McLarens still have the same base as the ones they first released back in 93 or 94. They did add some upgrades on it compared to the old ones, like a driver figurine, small cockpit aerial, rim branding in the wheels, the rain tires and bargeboards for the Donington version, and then the cameras on the airbox. but you can still tell it's still the old model underneath. For the Donington model, they even use the same flag as well as on the Hamilton Brazil 2021 model. Now, I don't really mind them reusing the old tooling, but it's a bit dated and it's beginning to show. I also think all these new small additions don't make up for the huge up hike in price compared to the old models. Having said that, I'm sure they will sell like hotcakes, especially the Donington version. For the collectors of the World Champions collection by Minichamps, the Hamilton 2015 Mercedes and the Alan Jones 1980 Williams have been re-released, and the Jones model is a dirty version now. And here now is some news from other brands. So GP Replicas released another few interesting classics. The most interesting ones are the World Champions and the Gilles Villeneuve Ferrari, I think. They released models with and without driver figurines. Some of the World Champions releases with figurines are the Graham Hill BRM 1962, the Lauda 1977 Ferrari, the Damon Hill Williams 1996, and most interestingly I think the 1976 Hunt McLaren Fuji version with rain tires damage on the sidepod and raised dirt. Other World Champions releases from GP Replicas include the 51 Fangio Alfa, 52-53 Ascari Ferrari, the 57 Fangio Maserati, the Harthorn 1958 Ferrari, a Von Trips Ferrari Sharknose from 1961, a Brabham 66 Brabham, Hill 68 Lotus, 69 Tyrrell March of Jackie Stewart and his 1971 Tyrrell, a 74 Fittipaldi McLaren, 1980 Jones Williams, Rosberg 1982 Williams, and a 1987 PK Williams, and these are all driverless versions as well. GP Replicas have also re-released versions of the 1982 Villeneuve Ferrari 126C2 from the San Marino Grand Prix and Belgian Grand Prix with a driver figurine in it this time. These will also be released again under the Villeneuve collection. Basically, the packaging and the base plate are different, with the outer box having Gilles' helmet design on it and the base plate being red instead of black. The standard GP Replicas versions are out now, I believe. So yeah, so far for the most interesting releases that I think from December 2022 and January 2023. If you think I forgot to mention something, write it in the comments below. So yeah, this was this edition of the news. I hope you enjoyed it. I plan on doing these videos at least every month or so, or whenever something exciting has been announced or has been released. They won't always be as long as this edition, but since I wanted to cover not only this month of January, but also a bit of the December releases, it's a bit longer than I had anticipated. But yeah, in the meantime, stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching, and subscribe and blah blah blah, you know what to do. So see you in the next one.